And we have reached escape velocity. I'm taking the fast way home, you guys. This is Dad. This is a tape for Benjamin, David, and Aaron. I'm driving home from Chicago to Bloomington. I just got done with a visit, and I'm going to come out and visit you again really soon. But I had to go home, do some work, and since I'm so close to rush hour, I decided to turn on the turbojets and blast there. So I'm actually flying just a little bit above the atmosphere. You can see through the instruments Chicago below me. I've just left Chicago, flying about 500 miles an hour. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I did promise to finish the Darth and Joe story on this trip. So I'm going to tell you that. It was a creepy story about the pit of death, and it turned out that a famous human actress named Claudia Schiffer was trapped in the pit of death. Darth and Joe heard calls for help from the ground. They didn't see anybody around, but then they saw a small hole near a tree. Somebody grabbed Darth's arm when he reached in and pulled him in. It was a salt vampire. They showed him, the salt vampires, they gave him some salt, of course. They showed Darth and Joe where Claudia Schiffer was. Now, she was surrounded by a bunch of goblins. Just to remind you, goblins, of course, hate humming, so Darth and Joe started humming. Except, the problem was that these goblins were a little ahead of the game, and they had earplugs in. So they couldn't hear Darth and Joe, and they continued to menace Claudia Schiffer, getting closer and closer. So Darth and Joe did this. Oh, you can't see. They pretended to talk to each other, just opening and closing their mouths and pointing and looking surprised. And all the goblins pulled out their earplugs and said, "What did you say?" That's when Darth and Joe started humming. And the goblins covered their ears and ran out. "Wow, thanks," said Claudia Schiffer. "No problem. How'd you get down here anyway?" "A plant grabbed me." "A plant? What do you mean?" "A vine. It reached up and grabbed my leg and pulled me in." This was a very, very startling development as far as Darth and Joe were concerned, because, and I'll explain this. Plants should not grab people and pull them underground. It's one of the basic things you learn when you live on a planet with a pit of death, is that things can get very dangerous if the plants can reach up and pull you down. In the past, it was just mainly people who accidentally fell into the pit of death who would be in trouble. But now plants are starting to pull them down, according to this Claudia Schiffer woman. Now, she is an actress, so she could just be acting and pretending, but they decided to take it very seriously and take her back to exactly where it happened before so they could investigate this phenomenon. All right, we're passing some really large meteors. I'm going to turn down the outside sounds just a little bit. I'm still on my way back to Bloomington. Now, I had to deflect some of the meteors so they wouldn't hit the Earth. So I was just telling you about the tree problem, or more specifically the plant problem on Darth and Joe's planet. So they went to the place where Claudia Schiffer was originally grabbed by the ankle and pulled underground into the pit of death. They looked around. They didn't see any menacing plants. There was a pear tree. So Darth said, "Oh, what the heck?" And he walked up to the pear tree and said, "Excuse me, pear tree? You didn't pull this woman into the ground, did you?" And Joe said, "You can't talk to a pear tree." And Darth said, "Well, it's worth a try." And he continued, "See, we've been having some problems with some sort of plant pulling them down." "I heard you. I had nothing to do with it," said the pear tree. "You didn't pull her down?" "No, absolutely not. Now, please, leave me alone. I'm concentrating on photosynthesis here." "Okay." "Well, the pear tree said he didn't do it," said Darth. "Yeah," said Joe, "but pear trees don't talk." "Oh, yeah," said Darth. "That is kind of weird. Why are the trees talking?" "Why are the trees talking?" Yelled the grass at them. "Huh? Did you just say something?" "Did we just say something?" "Are you making fun of us?" asked Darth. "Are we making fun of you?" said the grass. You are making fun of us." "Yeah, and there's that woman who was walking on us before. Get her!" And one of the vines reached up and grabbed Claudia whatever her name is, ankles again. And Darth and Joe kicked the vine and it let go. "Golly, we better get out of here." And they backed off very carefully on a dirt path, being very careful not to step on any of the plants. This is a very serious situation. "Well, the plants never used to care when we walked on them." "Well, they never used to say anything," said Joe. "That's true," said Darth. Plus grass is designed to be walked on. It just bounces right back." "Yeah, grass is designed to be walked on," yelled the grass back at them. Okay, hold on. Turns out I have to pay a toll even in space because I'm so close to the Earth. I should have flown higher. And there's a lot of spaceship traffic here. Hold on a second. 50-cent toll. Let me get my 50 cents. There it is. I'm going to throw it into the space receptacle. And now the stop sign is changed to a thank you sign, and I can drive forward and finish telling you this fascinating story about Darth Joe, Claudia Schiffer, and the pit of death with the talking plants. Wow, I seem to have reached some sort of rush hour in outer space. We're only moving about 200 miles per hour instead of the usual 500 to 700 miles per hour. And look, cars squeezing by, or spaceships squeezing by without even any lanes open. There's some really bad spaceship drivers up here, I gotta tell you guys. That's one thing that Darth and Joe learned how to do very early on, was drive spaceships well. Because when you're driving a multi-ton spaceship, it's very dangerous. One slight bump into another spaceship and you could cause a huge rupture or tear in the hull of the spaceship, and your oxygen could escape. So it's very important to drive your spaceship well. And I want you boys, when you start driving spaceships around outer space, I want you to learn how to drive well. Now, Darth and Joe and Claudia Schiffer backed up. They had to figure out what made these plants intelligent and able to speak our language. Not what, said Joe. You're right, said Darth. What wouldn't do something like that? Because the plants are also able to grab people. These plants have been changed in a very strange way, because even normal talking intelligent plants can't actually move and grab you. Yes. Well, vines might be able to, said Darth. Vines can reach around and hold on to the sides of buildings or fences to grow up them, so why not people's ankles? You're right, said Joe. But we had to find out who did this. Oh, I don't think who did it, said Darth. Very funny. Okay, we had to find out the perpetrator. Who's the perpetrator? Not who. The person who did it. Right, gotcha. Boy, talking has sure become difficult ever since we met our new Time Lord friends, said Darth and Joe. Yeah, but they're not new, said Joe. They're hundreds of years old. Good point, said Darth. Besides, what's new to a Time Lord when you can go back in time anytime you want? So, they just all decided to go over to Darth and Joe's house with Claudia Schiffer. And I hope you can hear me because the space travel is really loud here. But they headed back toward the house. They got inside. Darth said, Mom, make us a grilled cheese sandwich. One big enough for 3 people. Sometimes Darth wasn't very polite and he just told his mom what to do. But everybody knows that it's better to ask and say please. And that's probably why Darth's mom came out and attacked them with all of her vines. That's the last time you're telling me when to make a sandwich. And she was reaching toward them, and her vines were reaching around all of them, and she was shutting their mouths up with her leaves. And Joe said, Darth, I don't remember your mom being a large house plant. What are you calling a house plant? Well, no offense, Mrs. Vader, but you're made out of wood and leaves, and you're attacking us. Oh, good point. Yeah, so I'm a large house plant. Okay. And Claudia Schiffer was very disturbed because she was about to be eaten by a large houseplant that looked like it was sort of Darth and Joe's mother, but it was made out of, it looked also like a giant tree that was living. It was wearing her clothes, and it looked like it had been cleaning the kitchen when suddenly it turned into a large tree and decided to attack them. So this was a very disturbing development indeed to all of them. Luckily, Darth and Joe were Jedis, and Darth said, you don't want to attack us. And the plant mother said, I don't want to attack us. And Joe said, you want to make us a big cheese sandwich. And the mother said, I want to turn you into a big cheese sandwich. No, said Joe. You want to make a big cheese sandwich for us. I want to make 4 cheese sandwiches into you. No, said Claudia. No, it's okay, said Darth. I'll take it over from here. Mom? Yes, darling? You don't want to eat us. I want to not eat you. That's right. You want us to eat a large cheese sandwich. I want a large cheese sandwich to eat you, said Darth's mother. No, this isn't working very well, said Darth. And Joe said, yeah, it's like ever since she turned into a plant, she just doesn't listen very well. Good point. We're going to have to figure out some other way of appealing to her. Light. Plants love light, said Joe. That's right. We have to cut a hole in the ceiling. Let some of the light in. And he whipped out his lightsaber and cut a hole, reached up and carved a little hole in the ceiling. Some of the plaster fell down on their head. And Darth's mother looked up, and she started let go of them and reaching her vines up to the light. And Darth and Joe flipped up out and grabbed Claudia Schiffer and took her out the door. Huh. I guess coming home wasn't such a good idea, said Joe. Well, said Darth, we did learn one thing, that your mother is a large houseplant. Exactly, said Darth. So the plants out there are acting like humans, and the humans are turning into plants. Not that Darth and Joe were actually human, but that's the word that it translates to from whatever species they are. So basically, this is one of the worst problems that has ever confronted Darth and Joe. And at that point in time, they had no idea what they were going to do to try to solve the problem. Well, when Darth and Joe and Claudia Schiffer got outside, they were looking around for whatever it was that they were going to do next. They noticed that a carrot was chasing a turnip down the road. I'm going to get you! I'm going to get you! And the carrot was hopping down the road after a turnip. I'm going to get you! I'm going to get you! In front of Darth's house. And the turnip was yelling, help, help, he's going to get me, he's going to get me! And Darth said, quick, this way! And the turnip started running toward them and jumped in the air, and Darth caught the turnip. And Darth, Joe, Claudia Schiffer, and the turnip went down through the secret entrance into Darth and Joe's basement, where Joe's laboratory is located. And first thing they did was ask the turnip. He was very thankful. Thanks for saving me from that crazy carrot. Oh, why was the carrot chasing you? Oh, I don't know. I was just walking on the ground. He said I bruised his root. I was just walking around. What are you doing walking around? Aren't you a turnip? Well, yeah. Turnips don't walk. We never used to. You're right. I don't know what's going on. In fact, I never used to think much at all. Or, gosh, the world has sure become strange recently. You're telling us, said Claudia Schiffer. That's right, I was telling you, wasn't I, said the turnip. Well, do you mind, said Joe, if we take a small piece of your leaf to analyze? Will it hurt? It might hurt a little now that you have feelings. But it's very important. We have to figure out what's going on here. Okay, if it's for science, I'll do it, said the turnip. And he held out one of his leaves. And Joe cut a small piece off. Oh, said the turnip. And put it under a microscope. And they looked at it, and Joe said, what do you make of this, Darth? And Darth looked under there and said, what do you make of this, Claudia? And Claudia looked under there, and she said, seems like the cellular structure has been inverted in some sort of intravenous matrix diversion. Perhaps there is a plant protein anomaly that's similar in analysis to some kind of synthetic protein-like molecule that's helping pass through the membranes of both the plant and animal cells in an inverse relationship to the vice versa quantity that relates to how large or small a diverse population, or one in which the mean or the temperature has repeated to thermal exclusivity within a small medium-sized turnip, she said. Exactly my thought, said Joe. Huh, said Darth. What Claudia's trying to say, said Joe, if I may paraphrase, certainly, said Claudia, is that this plant cell has been terribly altered by this chemical. And he wrote on the board DHNA, the letters D, H, N, and A. And Darth spelled it out. Duhna? No, it's just called DHNA, said Joe. It's a new experimental chemical that they've been using recently to try to make whipped cream whippier. You know how whipped cream is sometimes sort of gets floppy and flirpy? Well, a lot of scientists on our planet have been working day in and day out to make the whipped cream more fluffy and pluppy. You know, kind of flirpy and blurpy, not so gloopy and droopy. And Darth said, yes, that is a major problem that requires world attention. I'm sure glad they've been working on it, and they've come up with this chemical that's changed plants into animals and animals into plants. Yes, they have, said Joe. I'm sure it was an accident. We're going to have to go to the Plant Research Center in Milwaukee. Milwaukee? What's Milwaukee? Well, it's an Earth city, but we have a city on our own planet, said Joe, that was named Milwaukee in honor of the Milwaukeean place on planet Earth. And what we should do is go there and find out exactly how the chemical got loose and if they have any ideas for how to neutralize its effects. All right, let's go, said Darth. We'll use the hovercraft. And so Claudia, Darth, the turnip, and Joe got into their hovercraft and hovered over to the city of Milwaukee on Darth and Joe's planet. And they could see the plants on the ground running around, and the humans were turning into plants. It was a big mess. And because, of course, the chemical was probably released first in Milwaukee, so it's had more time to work on the plants and animals there. They landed on the roof of the building. A crazy potato started chasing them, but they kicked it off the building, and it landed in a pot of dirt on the second floor below. And they got down into the building. Now watch out for potatoes, onions, turnips. And the turnip said, turnips? Oh, turnips seem to be nice. But any other vegetable, treat with extreme care and caution. It could be dangerous. Right, said Joe. I always knew that vegetables were essentially dangerous. And they looked around, and they found the offices of Plant Research and Development, and they walked in, and the scientists were still there working, except the scientists were plants, were the plantagists. And just like Darth's mom, the process of turning into a plant had really driven them quite crazy, and they started to attack Darth and Joe, and they started to attack each other, and they started to attack the walls. They were just attacking and attacking. So Darth, Joe, and Claudia backed out, and the turnip yelled, "Hold it!" And all the scientists stopped moving. I guess they listened to other plants, said Joe. That's right. They'll listen to me, because I'm a turnip. These guys just want to be plants. I've been a plant my whole life. I know what it's like living in the soil, waiting for it to rain. If it doesn't rain, you don't get any water. Not like humans. You can just go to the sink anytime you want and get water. Oh, I wish it was that easy. And of course now it is. I can just walk around. But I like ways the things they were. Or I like things the way they were. Whatever. You get my idea. No, we don't, said the scientist. And now we're going to eat you. No, no, no. You're a plant. You don't eat other plants. We don't? No, you eat humans, like them. Oh, we're going to eat them. No, no, no. You guys are also scientists, remember? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, scientists. Scientists who eat humans, let's go. No, no, no. You guys are scientists who you accidentally turned yourselves into plants. And now you have to figure out a way to purposefully change yourselves back into human scientists so you can fix this planet. That's right, said one of the scientists. What were we thinking? After we eat these guys, we have to turn everybody back into animals and plants. No, no, no. Don't eat these guys, said the turnip. Don't eat these guys? No, they're going to help you. Their names are Darth and Bo Flater, and they're great. Darth and Joe Vader, said Darth and Joe Vader. Right, whatever. Anyway, the point is, it's really hard to talk like this. So if you want me to finish talking, you're going to have to listen right away. Okay, said Darth and Joe. Well, listen, what do you want? No, no, not you guys. The scientists. Right, said the scientist. We're listening. You have to find a cure for DHNA, the chemical that you created. Then, you know. Oh, that's right, said the scientist. We forgot. It's the chemical that got loose. And now how does a chemical get loose? Well, Brian here poured it down the drain, said one of the scientists. Well, I thought we were done with it, he said. Yeah, we were done drinking it. Drinking it? You drank it? Well, John here thought it was a milkshake ingredient, and he mixed it up. Boy, you guys have pretty lax standards. What does lax mean? You know, loose. Like, you don't take care of things very well. Like, you're sloppy. Are you calling us sloppy? And he threw a big clump of dirt at the turnip. Hey, that hurt. Oh, that's pretty good tasting dirt. Can I have some more? Sure, said the scientist. Huh. And the turnip hopped up on the table and started eating some of the dirt. You plants, said Dorothy, had a little cough in his throat. You plants are getting a little distracted here. Remember, DHNA. That's right, said the scientist. We have to figure out a way of finishing our inverted product. The antidote. ANHD. Anida? Isn't Canada a place on Earth? Not Canada. Anida. Anida? And a what? No, Anida. It's ANHAD. It's a chemical that will turn the plants back into plants and the humans back into humans, but we have to spread it all over the planet. Plus, we don't know what to add next. We've only created ANH. We can't figure out how to make the D part. Oh. Well, what have you tried so far? Well, we've tried putting in donuts and Dalmatians and dishwasher soap and Datsuns. It's kind of a car and also a kind of a dog. And that's it? That's all you've tried, asked Joe? Yeah, we can't think of any more D words to try. Well, said Claudia, have you tried dancing? That starts with D, dancing. Hey, that's a good idea, said the turnip. Everybody dance! And they turned on some music. And I'm going to sing you the song that the music was playing that they danced to. Da-da-da-da-da-da. 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 Da-da-da. Well, there are doodads and dandelions on my head, causing dandruff to fall on the daisies. Well, there are doctors and dishes and dances for all. Let's go to the dart throwing contest, because I have to eat a doodad. Now what's a doodad, you ask? What's a doodad? What's a doodad, you ask? Is it anything like a dad? Doodad, do tell us, Dad, what's a doodad? Well, Dad started docking and talking and barking, and Dad said what a doodad was. Well, a doodad is a small thing like a gizmo or a thingamabob, but they call it a doodad, don't you see? Dee-dee-dee-dee, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. So don't be a dingbat, be a doodad. Don't be a dart or a door or a dupe. Be a doodad, be a doodad, and you can eat some doodad soup. Well, that's basically how the song went. I changed it a little bit. Anyway, so they were dancing and dancing, and sure enough, in one of the vials, or which is another way for saying the beacons of glass that held the chemicals, there started a great bubbling and churning and whirling and burling, and the chemical turned green. Green, green, said the turnip, because he was very excited. Plants usually they love the color green. It means it's a sign of health for plants. And the scientists were also very excited because it meant the experiment worked, and they had their ANHD, chemical complete. Well, how do we spread it around the world? Dart said, don't worry, Joe and I will figure it out. Let's go, Turnip. That's right. And Claudia, that's right, said Claudia. And they all got together. Thanks, scientists. Here, have some right now. And they splashed it all over the scientists, who started turning back into humans as they ran away. And they got into the hovercraft. We're going to need some kind of enormous shower head. Yes, said Darth. That was Joe talking before. An enormous shower head. Are you really that dirty from all the dirt in there? No, said Joe. An enormous shower head so we can spray this stuff all over the world from like an airplane or a hovercraft or something. Good thinking, said Darth. Usually when we need something enormous, we go to the in-between universe. In-between universe, said Claudia. Yeah, would you like to go? I guess there's no reason we can't take her, said Joe. All right, I want to go, said the turnip. So they held on to Claudia and the turnip. They transported to the in-between universe, and they walked up and knocked on the door of Dr. Zhivago. Hey, you don't have to knock so hard, I'm right here. Oh, Darth and Joe and a turnip and a woman of Earth, I believe. That's right, my name is Claudia Schiffer. Oh, I've seen all your movies. We get them in the in-between universe. They bounce off some of the stars that lead up here. You're a fabulous actress. What can I do for you? Well, said Joe. Darth will explain. Well, said Darth. Let the turnip explain. Well, I think Claudia can put it best to you. Yes, Claudia said. We came here to get a large shower head. Oh, yeah, I can see that you guys are pretty covered in dirt. Especially you, Turnip, but don't you like dirt? Oh, I love it! Hey, is that dirt you have in your backyard? Sure, help yourself. And the turnip bounced over to the backyard and ate some of the dirt. And in the meantime, Darth explained to Joe that Claudia was about to explain, and which she did, to Dr. Zhivago, that they needed a large shower head in order to a really, really large shower head. We're talking giant, in order to spray a chemical on the plant to save everybody, because they were all turning into plants and animals the wrong way, and it was making some of them just act like they wanted to eat everybody else, which wasn't a very good thing at all. So, there is somebody who makes huge kitchen and bathroom devices for a giant race of humans who live on Saturn V. Back in Joe's universe, they make them there in the in-between universe. And that person's name is Bub. And Bub lives about 3/4 of a mile down there, but of course Darth and Joe are able to fly in the in-between universe with their rings, so they both each held one of Claudia Schiffer's hands, and the turnip was done eating dirt for a while, jumped on Claudia Schiffer's head, and they flew 3/4 of a mile down the in-between universe until they got to the house of Bib, and they could see a giant sink, giant faucet, all sorts of giant things, and Bib asked what they needed, and they explained that they needed a giant faucet, like a shower head, to spray a chemical down on the planet to save the planet, and they were wondering how much that would cost. And Bib said, "Ma'am, you have a turnip in your hair." And she said, "Yes, I know, he's a friend of mine." "That's right," said the turnip. "Huh?" said Bib. "I've never seen a turnip speak before." "Well, it's a problem we have on our planet. We'd like to fix it. Could we use a shower head?" "Oh, sure. Actually, I have one that I don't need anymore. The Giants were going to use it, but they canceled their order because they decided to be dirty for a while." "Oh, that's great, I guess." And so he gave them a huge shower head. And it was so big they decided they first had to transport down to their planet and bring a giant cargo ship up, which they did. They borrowed from the cargo dock on their planet. And they flew it up into space, and then they transported the giant shower head onto the cargo ship, which actually was a great ship because it would hold the giant shower head, and they could fly it above the planet and release the chemical, spray it all over. And by the time they returned the giant cargo ship, the plants and animals were almost completely back to their old selves, and it was just really lucky that Darth and Joe and Claudia Schiffer hadn't been affected yet. But that was because Darth and Joe had been sleeping at the time of the spraying, and they were trying an experiment where they were putting a force field around themselves while they slept. That kind of takes you back to why they didn't turn into plants to begin with. Claudia Schiffer, she wasn't from that planet, so she wasn't affected when the spraying started. She was planet Earth, and Darth and Joe returned her to planet Earth. She was just visiting Darth and Joe's planet, and she was also from a different time period. She had slipped through a time warp space continuum tunnel just to go on vacation for a while, get away from the limelight, the fans. She's very popular on Earth. So they returned her to her home planet in time, and she gave them each, including the turnip, pictures of herself that she autographed because she was a big movie star. And the turnip was happy to go back to being a regular turnip in the ground, and Darth and Joe thought, maybe we should eat him when he's ripe, but they just couldn't get themselves to do that after all that the turnip had done for them. Well, of course, now that the vegetables were back to being vegetables, they didn't care much that they were eaten because they didn't really think. And the plants and the people, Darth's mom was back to being Darth's mom. She apologized for trying to eat them, and she made them a giant grilled cheese sandwich, even though it was just Darth and Joe then, but they each had half of it, and it made them so full that they decided to go to bed, and once again, just to be safe, they put the force field on. The end. Uh-oh. Apparently I've flown into Wisconsin instead of Indiana. I'm not used to flying over Chicago like that, and apparently I flew the wrong direction. So there are a lot of cheese restaurants and cheese stores out here, and then big fields, and look, a Walmart. Other than that, it's very flat. So I guess I'm gonna have to turn around, but I think I should go by a map first. There is a space station up just ahead, and after I get a map, figure out where I am and how to fly back to planet Earth to the correct location in Indiana, I'll tell you the story of Darth and Joe and the Cave of Doom. Okay? Okay. So Darth and Joe were eating their curds and whey when along came a spider who sat down beside her. Who was her? And scared Miss Muffet away or something. No, actually, the truth is that Darth and Joe were eating curds and whey. Curds and whey are cheese products. They are produced when making cheese out of milk. I'm still in space. You can hear the other ships go by, pass. Actually, I'm passing most of them. I'm in a big hurry to get back to Chicago on planet Earth because I have a lot of cheese here that I don't want to melt. Cheese can melt. So we're going to go through yet another toll booth, or perhaps one of the same ones we went through the other direction. This time we're going back in the sort of south direction. Automatic letter stop ahead, 75 cents, manual right lanes. Okay, I'll get right back to you with the story in just a second. Okay, so anyway, as I was saying, by the way, I had the tape recorder off for some time, but I used a slight Time Lord trick, so to you it only seemed like a second. So Darth and Joe, they were eating their curds and whey. They were talking about the Cave of Doom. And Joe said, Darth, how come you call it the Cave of Doom? And not just the Cave of Doom. And Darth said, because it's called the Cave of Doom. If it were just called the Cave of Doom, then I would just call it the Cave of Doom. But then people might not know what you're talking about. They'd expect you to say the Cave of Doom. You know, inflection, or how we say words, whether our voice goes up or down, that's an important part of the meaning of the word. I know, said Joe. But I don't think it's called the Cave of Doom. I think it's called the Cave of Doom. No, it's not. It's called the Cave of Doom. They had an argument about this, lasted about 3 hours. Every once in a while, Darth and Joe have the dumbest arguments. It goes on forever and everyone gets annoyed. But they're cousins, and cousins love each other, and they're very close. And for some reason, sometimes people in the same family who love each other have these arguments. So they were sitting there arguing back and forth. Darth was saying, the Cave of Doom, and Joe was saying, the Cave of Doom, the Cave of Doom, Doom, Doom. And finally, they got tired of arguing and decided to get on with their lives. And that is when they started talking about what it was else besides that argument that they knew about the Cave of Doom. Well, they knew about the fierce bat creatures. Well, the fierce bat creatures call themselves the fierce bat creatures. Everybody else calls them the giant bat creatures. They are giant. They look like humans, kind of, but they're bats. They're as big as people. They walk on 2 legs. They have huge wings. They're brown. They're actually bats, but they have no teeth. They're sort of like ducks. They can't really hurt you when they bite you. So they're not really that fierce. They think of themselves as being fierce, so they call themselves the fierce bat creatures. But everybody else just says the big bat creatures or the giant bat creatures, because after all, they are the largest bat creatures on Darth and Joe's planet. Darth and Joe had never been to the Cave of Doom. Hey, Darth, said Joe. Yeah? How come we've never been to the Cave of Doom? I don't know, said Darth. I guess we never thought of it before. But we know what it's called. The Cave of Doom. You mean the Cave of Doom. Whatever. The point is, we had to go and have an adventure there. And Darth said, oh, we can't just go and, quote, have an adventure, unquote. We have to have a reason there. Somebody has to be calling for help. There has to be some sort of danger. We have to accidentally fall into it. We can't just go looking for danger. But isn't danger our middle name, Darth? No. Oh, I thought it was our middle name. What is our middle name? I can't remember. I just know that a spaceship just about collided with Mr. E's spaceship. How do you know that? Well, look at that reading. And they looked on the meter that was sitting on the kitchen table, and sure enough, it showed that Mr. E was just driving down the space highway, and another spaceship without signaling drove practically into him, and Mr. E had to swerve out of the way. That's why it's very important to learn how to drive your spaceships correctly. A lot of people don't know how to drive their spaceships correctly, and even if you're driving right, somebody might crash into you and kill you. So you have to always be ready to swerve out of the way and be safe. So, another thing that I noticed when I was driving in northern or southern Wisconsin on planet Earth, or just above it, is that there's a huge roller coaster at some place called Six Flags Great America. America, that sounds familiar. And there are a lot of them, giant roller coasters. So if you guys ever want to sit in a small rickety car and get spun around and feel like you're about to get killed at any second, instead of just taking a ride with one of your mothers, you could go on a roller coaster where it's really scary and where there's no driver. It just spins you all around. But at least there aren't other spaceships trying to crash into you. Now, another thing you might want to know is that there's a large outlet mall near Milwaukee in Wisconsin. What is an outlet mall? You might not be interested in knowing. Well, it's a place where they sell things for less money than they do in the city. So if you guys ever want to take a trip up to the outlet mall in Six Flags America, you just tell your old dad Eric, also previously known as Daddy Eric, and he'll say that's all right for you to do that. He might even go with you. That's the kind of dad he is. So anyway, I was flying over this, like, oh yeah, Darth and Joe. So there they were. They just finished their Curtain Way. They saw that Mr. E was all right, that he managed to avoid crashing. So they got back to the subject at hand, so to speak, which was the Cave of Doom, also known as the Cave of Doom, or the Cave of Doom, depending on who you ask, or whom you ask, as the case may be. So, Darth said, well, we could check it out. Maybe the Cave of Doom is dangerous and we need to post some warning signs. That's right, said Joe. Let's go inside the Cave of Doom, see if it really is dangerous, and if so, we'll put a warning sign outside it, and that will warn people to stay away, and then thus we'll be doing our civic duty as Jedis and heroes to help protect the people of our planet from danger. Good thinking, said Darth, and they decided to go off, and they took their hover motorcycles, which Obi-Wan Kenobi, their friend, had given them, and they flew all the way to the Cave of Doom, which was 3/4 of the way around the planet, which is actually only 1/4 around the way around the planet if you go the other direction, if you think about it. So they went the other direction to save time, which is only 1/4 of the way around the planet, and there it was, the Cave of Doom. It was just an ordinary-looking black cave stuck in the side of a mountain, and there was a sign saying, warning, this may or may not be dangerous, we're not sure. Signed Ned. Who's Ned? Asked Joe. Oh, don't you remember he was a hero from a long time ago. He wasn't very good, so his warning sign doesn't really help people much. Oh yeah, he was that not very good hero. I remember him. Well, our sign will be much better. It'll either say there's danger or there's no danger. Right, said Darth. Let's go. And so they walked into the Cave of Doom, or the Cave of Doom, and there they saw, right when they walked in, it flooped down toward them, a huge, possibly fierce bat creature, and it snarled at them. Snarl! Snarl! Huh? I am a huge, fierce bat creature! Snarl! Snarl! Okay, well, we'll just be going our way. Thanks very much. Huh? Aren't you scared of me? Oh, we're terrified. We'll just be running away very slowly. We're running slowly. It looks like walking, but it's really running for our species. Thank you very much. Goodbye. And so Darth and Joe kept going through the cave, and the fierce bat creature was practicing his snarl in the background. Snarl! 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 Trying to see which snarl sounded fiercest. And the ground started feeling soggier and soggier. Hey, since when are rocks soggy? Asked Joe. Well, ever since we've been in this part of the Cave of Doom. Would you stop it? It's the Cave of Doom. No, it's a cave. Well, just stop it. It's a cave. Let's just agree to disagree, said Darth. Let's just agree to argue about it outside later, said Joe. Good thinking, said Darth. So why is the ground soggy, said Darth. I don't know. I'm afraid to touch it. Afraid? Don't be afraid. And they reached down, and the ground was wet and spongy. It's wet and spongy, said Joe. Yeah, I noticed, said Darth. That explains the softness and the squishiness of it. Yeah, but why is it wet and spongy? Because it's a giant sponge, said a voice not unlike that of a voice of a rat of unusual size, which is what they were faced with. It started coming toward them. Rats of unusual size, as you may or may not know, are extremely vicious and dangerous. They're about as big as a dog, or maybe bigger, and they attack, and sometimes there are lots of them. They have very sharp teeth. And they started running at Darth and Joe. The only reason Darth and Joe could understand the rat of unusual size was that Darth and Joe were kooks, and they could understand animals of all kinds, even dangerous ones like the rats of unusual size. And so the rat was attacking them, and Darth and Joe pulled out their lightsaber. And when Joe swung his lightsaber around and it cut the ground, because the ground was very squishy, it let out a terrible smell. Ah! And Darth and Joe started running away because they couldn't stand the smell. But the rat of unusual size loved the smell, and he ran right to the hole and started breathing it in. And when he did, he got even bigger and more powerful. Somehow the rat of unusual size was feeding off the foul odor from the ground. And then he started attacking Darth and Joe. And this time he was the size of a small horse, which is large for a dog, but small for a horse, but pretty big for a rat of unusual size. And as he was attacking, Joe didn't know what to do, and he pulled out, he was trying to reach for his knife, and he was fumbling around, and he pulled out some curd, which was in the way. Curd is a cheese product, not unlike cheese. And he threw it on the ground. The rat of unusual size gobbled it up and started eating it. And he stuck out his tongue, and he started rolling on his back, and he said, please, sir, may I have some more? And suddenly he sounded like Oliver and Oliver Twist, a small boy who wanted more food. And he was saying, please, sir, may I have some more? More what? More what? More curd? Yes, whatever that was, it was delicious. Oh, it's the curd, said Darth. Yes, I know, said Joe. Let's give him some more. And Joe threw out some more curd, and pretty soon they were surrounded by rats of unusual size, but they were no longer hostile toward Darth and Joe because they much would rather eat curd or any other cheese-type product than actual humans or Darth and Joe, who looked to be a bit too bony for them, and also too skinny, full of skin, you know what I mean? So they were safe for the moment, and they backed out slowly out of the large room until they felt the millions of little hands grab them. What? What's that? Millions of little hands sticking out from the wall. They grabbed Darth and Joe, and they pulled Darth and Joe to the wall. This is a dangerous cave, said Darth. You're right, said Joe. We'll have to note that when we put up the warning sign. This is somewhat like the cave of the pit of death, is it not? Said Darth. Yes, said Joe. At the moment, I can feel something tasting us. You can. So can I. In my back? Yes. Something to do with the millions of little hands pulling us back. Well, maybe we should discuss this at a later date, and right now try to extricate ourselves or escape from the millions of little hands. Excellent idea, said Joe. What do you suggest? Well, I'm just going to squirm out of my jacket and pants. And Darth got out. He was just wearing his Jedi underwear, and Joe did the same thing. And the millions of little hands, feeling that there were no longer any bodies in what they thought were skin, but turns out to be clothes, they dropped the clothes. Darth and Joe put them back on. Be sure not to get too close to the walls, said Darth. There appear to be millions of little hands that stick out from the walls. Pull you close to them, taste you, and then attempt to eat you. Yes, good thinking, said Joe. Right, said Darth. Let's be on our way. Which way is that? I don't know, either left or right. Well, if we stand upside down, left is right and right is left. Good, but pointless point, said Joe. Thank you, said Darth. I thought that made no sense whatsoever. You have any more of that curd? Asked Darth. I'm getting kind of hungry. No, yeah, I do have some more, but I think we should save it in case we come across any more rats of this abnormal or unusual size. Good thinking, said Darth. Well, we think well, don't we? Here in the Cave of Doom. Very, very funny, said Darth. You know very well it's the Cave of Doom. And suddenly, something green splattered at them and started dissolving the rock next to them. That doesn't seem like a very good sign. No, it looks like green slime, but it shot right at us. And more shots came, and they used their Jedi diving tricks to dive out of the way. And they saw the shots were coming from around the corner, and they jumped up onto a rock out of the way of the line of fire. And that is when they decided to use a Time Lord trick. Darth and Joe had been training to become Time Lords, and one thing they could do is make copies of themselves, because they could go back in time just like a half a second, or forward in time a half a second, so there'd be more than one copy of themselves. And that's what they did. And suddenly there were 5 or 6 Darth and Joes, and the person shooting got all confused and was shooting at the wrong ones. And then Darth jumped down on his head, bonk, and knocked him unconscious. And it was kind of like a goblin, but a lot taller and thinner, and he was holding a gun full of green slime. Oh, how dangerous, said Darth. Yes, but I like the idea, said Joe. Green slime is a weapon. I'm going to write that down like I've been writing down the other things you haven't noticed, but I'm writing it down in case we can use it in our pit of death. Hey, couldn't we put a cave of death within the pit of death? Wow, said Joe, that's a great idea. And so he wrote down that information about the green slime guns and the very tall, but apparently extremely weak goblin, or yes, it was a goblin, and yet it was tall and thin and not very strong. So they decided to wait for the goblin to wake up. They took away his gun of green slime, and as soon as he woke up, Joe said, "Would you like some curd?" Huh? What are you guys doing? What? Didn't I shoot you? Wait, what's going on? That's exactly what we wanted to know. Why did you shoot us? Because you're intruding here and I'm supposed to shoot you? Right. And who told you to shoot intruders or people come in here? The doctor? You know Doctor Who? Who? Yeah, who? Who's that? Right, do you know him? Who? Right, who? Do you know who? Who do I know? That's what we're asking you. Oh, Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom? Darth and Joe had heard of Dr. Doom. Is that the doctor you're talking about? Yeah, but he's never really done much for me as a doctor. I had a sore knee the other day, and I went up to him and said, "Hey, Doc, I got a sore knee. What are you going to do for it?" And you know what he did? He slapped me upside the head and said he would incinerate me if I ever complained again. That's the kind of doctor he is. Not much of a doctor, like I say. Well, we didn't really come here for a doctor, said Darth. We came here to explore. Could you, where does Dr. Doom live? Oh, I'm not supposed to tell you. He lives down in that cave there at the end. Oh, I wasn't supposed to tell you. I didn't really, oh, shoot. Well, we won't say that you said anything, said Darth. Yeah, you can be on your way, said Joe. Would you like some curd? Sure. And he ate some. That's good. Hey, I bet the rats of unusual size would like that. It's very cheesy. Yeah, have another piece in case they attack you. Thanks! And he walked off. Let's go, Darth said. Let's go, Joe said. And they walked down the hallway toward the cave within the cave, which is the headquarters, apparently, according to that very tall, thin, weak goblin, of Dr. Doom. Well, as you may or may not know, Dr. Doom was an extremely dangerous villain. Very bad, on the bad side of the force, completely. He wore a hood and a metal mask, and he just did bad things all the time. So that's where Dr. Doom lives, said Darth. And as they were sneaking around in the cave, it was getting very dark, and they had to crawl. The cave got very low, and then it got tall again. They could walk again. Hey, why don't we just use that door? You're right. That way we can avoid the crawling. That's right. Every time it gets low, just use the door. Good thinking. And there was another low point. They just walked next to it and used a door and walked through the door. But when they walked through the door, they were transported, and they could feel that familiar transportation feeling. And suddenly they were in a totally metallic room. The floor was metal, the walls were metal, the ceiling were metal, the light bulbs were metal, the plants up in the corner were metal plants. At least Dr. Doom likes to decorate, said Darth when he saw the metal plants. Yeah, he has pretty good taste. I like metal, said a voice. You didn't just say I like metal, did you, Darth? No, I thought maybe you said that. Either that or it was Dr. Doom, said Dr. Doom. Oh, Doctor, maybe you can clear up a little argument we have, said Joe. You live here in the Cave of Doom, right? And Dr. Doom said, no, what are you talking about? He means the Cave of Doom, said Darth. No, you're both wrong, said Dr. Doom. What? This is the Cave of Doom! Oh.